Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Olga is here. For those of you who haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel. Please hit the bell as well to get the latest notifications about the videos I post out there for you guys. And today's video is going to go into my story time videos. As you can see, I don't have any makeup on. I'm gonna be basically playing with makeup, putting on my face and telling you the latest thing I've been dealing with this past week. So this week, of course, as if other things had not already gone wrong and a lot of things on my plate, this particular thing is like top-notch, needed to happen too. And this is what happened. My kitchen got flooded. And basically I'm gonna start applying my makeup and I'll tell you how it happened. Thank God that we have insurance for the house, which of course in America you are required to carry insurance on your house.
Pretty much everybody has insurance.
Everybody has insurance on their house in America. And so basically, like if something like a flood or a fire, God forbid, happens, then I'm using my Drunk Elephant Behydrate to put on my face. Next I'm gonna go in with my favorite foundation, and it's the Healthy Elixir by Vitalist CoverGirl. Ooh, you're almost out. I do have more somewhere here. What happened was I got up in the morning to go to the kitchen to make my husband his lunch, as always, like, because I start work at around 7. I start work at 7 a.m. and so I got up at around 6:15 or something. I went downstairs to make lunch. I like to start a fresh pot of coffee in the morning. I cannot wake up without coffee. Normally I wear shoes in the house, like I wear slippers or home shoes, but this time, and this is why it's important to tell you, this time I did not wear them, and this is how I noticed, because I don't see well, so like especially in the morning my eyesight is very much foggy and kind of like everything is in a fuzz. And plus I'm basically moving on an autopilot. Like I don't like talking a lot in the morning either, because morning is not my favorite time of the day per se. I'm pretty grumpy in the morning. If you were to ask me a question, I like to be a bit like brief and to the point. I don't like to go into lengthy conversations in the morning because it's like time that I have to get ready before work and everything. So it's like what I tell people is like, you reached Olga Guffey's answering machine. Sorry, I'm not at home. So it's like talking to like an autopilot. So I'm going there in the kitchen and I don't have any shoes on. And I step basically near the refrigerator and my foot gets wet, so I look down and I see all of this water on the floor, on the vinyl, and I'm like thinking, where did the water come from? The thing is, here's something you need to know, and the reason I didn't immediately get concerned is because we do have a Maine coon cat, and she drinks her water in the kitchen. There's her bowl there, and she also, instead of like being like a normal cat, because normal cats stick their faces in the water and they just start licking it up, right? So she sticks her paw in the water, splashes it all around the kitchen floor, and it flies all over the place. It's a Maine Coon feature because these are ground cover cats, and they basically, when they survive in the forests or they live on their own, they hunt for fish, and this is how they catch the fish in the water. So these cats, they don't really like to be submerged in the water per se, but they don't get scared of water, if you know what I'm saying. So at first, I'm not even concerned because I see a little bit of water in front of the fridge and I'm like, well, maybe it's Xena. And then the other thing is sometimes we'll drop a couple of ice chips on the floor and she will start playing with the ice chips and then they melt, and so it's like, okay, so the cat was playing, and as I walked towards the range and towards my pantry, I see more water, and it's like literally you could see it's sort of like, I wish I took pictures with a cell phone. I of course did not think about that. Along the wall where the cabinets are and to the pantry. So at this point I'm like, oh shit, it's probably something leaking from the fridge. So I call my husband, he comes downstairs and I tell him, and he's like, looking at me, and he's like, yeah, it's probably cat playing with the water, right? Or like ice chips. I'm like, no, honey, this is like a lot more water than normal. And I start like literally taking towels out of the drawer and throwing them on to collect all of the water, thinking, okay, we're just going to collect all of the water and eventually it will be fine. And maybe the fridge leaked a little bit, right? And so that's what we're thinking. And then we decided to pull out the fridge because as I soak up the water with the towels, I'm noticing that it's really a lot, and most of it is going sort of underneath the refrigerator, like where you can really stick your hand in there. And the way our fridge is, it's a double door in the top and a freezer drawer on the bottom. So we pull out the drawer a little bit and we see there's more water, and we're like, we gotta take this fridge out of there. So we try to pull it out, we pull it out, and oh my gosh, I see water like literally covering everything underneath the fridge. So at this point we understand that this is something leaking behind the fridge, and we're like, this is no joke anymore, you know. And then we look at the wall, and you know where the dry wall is and all of that, and it looks like it's all bubbly in there. And it's not like it doesn't stretch up the wall, it's mainly where the hookup for the water line is and all of that area. And at this point we're like, we gotta call the plumber. So my husband, he made the phone call. This is like all happening kind of crazy in the morning because I gotta start work at 7. So I start work, I went upstairs, I work from home, and while he is actually, instead of going to work, he's like, I gotta call work, I gotta call the plumber, I gotta take care of these things. As I log in and I start taking calls in the morning, I work from home. What I do is I am a data-enabled language interpreter. I work for the company that provides services for clientele who deal with people who do not speak English, because I do speak Russian and Ukrainian, and I've been doing this for many years. Oops, I dropped my beauty blender on the floor. Gross. That's gross. Like, I'm not gonna miss my work because of this, right? On such a short notice. Right now I'm using my Laura Mercier setting powder. This is a loved, beat up shade and light palette, and basically I'm gonna do some contouring with it, you guys. Have I told you this? I found this brush at Marshall's. This is my original one, and I think I paid like 24 bucks at Sephora when this was all like all new, and she just came out with these palettes. That was a couple years back, and I still have the one. And at Marshall's I bought this for like 12 bucks. I have not yet opened the new brush. I'm still like using, I like to have like extra things, you know, on hand, just in case, like if this brush really like goes bad, because I do like it because it has this double end. The only negative thing about this brush is that you cannot stick it in a cup, because then you would be ultimately destroying one of the ends. So I kind of wish, like what they did though, like I wish they could come out with an idea where it's like a situation here where you could untwist it and you would have two brushes, and then you could put it back together, like have an adapter right here. And I'm pretty much almost out of the shade right here, because this is the one that works for my complexion, and this is a lighter shade. These days Kat Von D has this palette where you take out the ones that you have used up and you can replace them with a new one, but this is like her original palette before she even had that idea. So I'm still on the original palette, and it's a good palette. I want to use up all of the colors in it. Like, even if it doesn't really work for me, I don't want to waste my money and not use them up. Basically, I start working at that point, and the only thing I have on my mind is like, how bad is this damage, right? And to be honest with you though, if you walked into my kitchen and you didn't know, you would have not noticed. Once I cleaned up the water though from the floor, visually there is really nothing to see. Like the outside, like the floor, the counters, everything looks fine. There is really nothing wrong if you look at it at the first glance. And then even though I saw the damage that was behind the refrigerator where the water line comes in, I'm like, I'm just gonna pat it with a towel and it's just gonna dry. How could I be so naive? How could I be so naive? Because basically, if the house was built from I don't know, brick, maybe stone, like a real house. Like if you guys are from here, from America, Canada, you know how they build houses here, right? But if you live somewhere else in the world, in America, houses for the most part are built out of wood, and there's like sheetrock, and there is this insulation material. And I mean, really, like, think of it like a piece of paper. What would happen to the piece of paper if you had spilled water on it, right? It would look wet, correct? But then it would dry eventually. But instead of getting like a flat piece of paper, like the brand new piece of paper that you started with, you would end up with something that looks like it has waves in it and it's all deformed and stuff. Basically, once the water gets on the, let me just grab one of my Wayne Goss brushes here and I'll continue. I had done my brows just real quick. I had put Anastasia Beverly Hills brow gel. I used Ray Morris, no, was it Ray Morris? Yes, it was a Ray Morris brush that I used, and I filled in basically some black eyeshadow into the eyebrows, and then I put the Anastasia Beverly Hills brow gel. Now I'm going into this Viseart palette right here, and I'm going into this lovely color right here, and I'm using this as a base for my eyeshadow. So let me just continue saying that once you have ended up with water going onto your sheetrock, like even to you it might seem like it's very little and nothing really happened. You're like, oh, it's not a big deal, but then it actually is worse, much worse than you might think it is, because to a naked eye you really cannot see all of that damage. So, and eventually, between my job, like I have 2 breaks and I have a lunch, so I would go downstairs, ask my husband, so what's going on here, and he would basically update me on the situation. He called the plumber came in, and the plumber explained that it was the water line that is connected from the wall to the refrigerator. It started leaking, there's like a valve there or whatever, and it leaked, and that's what created the problem. So the refrigerator itself is fine, the plumbing is fine, but it's that pesky water line is what jeopardized the whole situation. He said that the water damage, like he looked at it and he said it's pretty bad. Like, I'm still in denial, you guys. You know how somebody tells you it's bad, like it's really bad, and you're like, no, it's really not that bad. And how could I be so naive? I mean, I'm still in denial. This is Wayne Goss number 3. I'm going to go into this lovely dark pink right here. Apply this into my crease. He says you need to have like a guy from like 1-800 water damage, and that guy is gonna come in and he's going to assess how bad the situation really is. And I'm still like sitting around. My break is over, so I go upstairs, I take more calls, and all I have on my mind is that, like, how really bad it is. And I'm still in denial, thinking, oh, they're just kind of like probably exaggerating, it's really not that bad. And so then basically what happens is that my lunch comes around and I go downstairs again, and my husband tells me, so the 1-800 water damage guy came by and he needs to go into our crawl space. We have the access underneath the stairs, except that if you have like a little bit of the room there, it's like it can be used like a storage space, and normally people keep like their Christmas decorations, or people keep occasional stuff that you use that you don't need to be laying around your house, and like you don't have space in your garage for these types of situations, right? So that's what we keep there. And so my then is like, we need to empty that area, because that's the guy said he needs to have the access to the crawl space, and he needs to go underneath the house to assess the damage. And this is where, for me, like, as soon as my husband told me that guy needs to go into the crawl space, that's like the lightning went off. Like, it was like, boom, it's bad. Like, at this point, I understand, oh shit, this is a really serious situation. If this guy just came in and at a glance said he needs to go into the crawl space, we're screwed. And I start taking stuff out, all of the Christmas decorations, everything, you know, the stuff that I use for gifts, the bags, wrapping paper, everything, all of the like Halloween and Christmas decorations, you name it, it's all there, and I'm like literally taking it all out. It's crazy, guys. And finally I emptied that area enough for him so he could go in. Now I'm going to use the Jordana pencil it's in eggplant, and I'm going to apply this onto the bottom area right here of my eyelid. Going into Wayne Goss number 8, I'm going to use this lovely color right here in Busy Art, diffuse this color a little bit. I just went ahead into this color right here from this is like my favorite Too Faced palette. This was from one of those samples, and I had applied that right here, and I had also gone back into the Viseart palette, and I applied some of this color also into, let me show you, into this area right here. So right now what I'm gonna do is I will go into my Too Faced glitter glue and pat some of that on my eyelid right here, pretty much kind of like in the middle. I always recommend putting glitter glue. It doesn't have to be Too Faced, you can literally use any glitter glue you have on hand. And the reason I'm saying that is like normally it's a recommendation for people with hooded eyes. However, even if you don't have hooded eyes, having glitter glue to kind of secure shimmery eyeshadow is a good idea, because like as soon as you open your eyes, you run the risk of the glitter transferring over, and also the shimmery eyeshadows can sort of crease and collect in the lines when you're opening and closing your eye. I'm going into the color Splash right here. If you have like any other palettes, you can do it with that. Like especially this look that I'm creating, this kind of reminds me of what they have going on right now in like Tarte, as well as the Too Faced with all of their mermaid collections and with all of their, you know, colors that are in those types of palettes. Like if you've seen the mermaid, Be a Mermaid and Make Waves collection, that's literally the color scheme that I'm using is pretty much kind of like that, except that I'm using this old palette. Well, I mean, it's not old, to me it's like new, but it came out a while back. So, you know, if you guys have this, like, and a couple of like pink eyeshadows or something, you're all set. You don't need to go buy the Tarte or Too Faced Unicorn or Mermaid collection. Personally, I'm over the mermaids and unicorns and all of that. Like, I want to move on. Can we please move on? The plumber told us it's bad. The guy from the 1-800 water damage told us he crawled into the crawl space and told us, I'm using right now this Stila, the liquid eyeshadow type of thing right here, and I'm gonna put this, I'm gonna run this along my upper. So basically, he went into the crawl space and he said that the entire wall, the back wall of the kitchen was affected. It also apparently spread into the living room where we have the carpeted area. And he said, like, if you touch the carpet, it's damp. And it totally didn't even occur to me while I was like wiping, because I didn't see like immediate water on the carpet. Like I didn't immediately notice that the carpet was damp. So basically he's like, if you touch it, it's damp. And of course it was damp. And he went into the crawl space. He had special things like, I guess like special devices or gadgets that let him know how extensive the water damage is. Basically the sheetrock is all crap, needs to be torn off, needs to be replaced. We also called our insurance and opened up the claim with them. And they are aware of what's happening. But here is a kind of a funny thing. Before they can even start tearing down the kitchen, because he says this, he says like, okay, so you will have to, the insurance people or whoever comes and does all of this job will come out and tear down all that sheetrock, all the stuff, the cabinets, the countertops, you name it, all this stuff will probably just get replaced. The vinyl in the kitchen has to be torn off. has to be all redone. Everything basically has to be redone. So I started that morning, and it happened on Friday morning, so it happened yesterday. Like, what a nice day I was having. I was going downstairs. I mean, I hate mornings, guys. Don't get me wrong, I hate mornings. But I started that morning, nothing seemed like it was gonna be, you know, that it was gonna happen. So, and now we have this whole situation, and that's what we're dealing with, you know. And that's what we're going to be dealing with next week. So, but before any of the work has to be started, here's the most interesting part I want to tell you about. They said that the asbestos guy, somebody from asbestos, has to come in and basically validate that we don't have asbestos in our house. Now, like, we don't have asbestos in our house was built in 2011, and, you know, in America, people who built houses like after 1970s, 1980s, pretty much asbestos has not been used ever since then. Although, like, I don't want to say, if you're looking for that type of information, please don't use me as like the, you know, like I know the law only now because I basically came across this with my situation, but don't quote me. You always want to look up this information. I'm not an expert in any of this stuff. This is totally not my forte. So I asked my husband, I said, well, why do we have to have an asbestos guy who would be coming over? We have a brand new house. And they said to us that basically, my husband explained that in Oregon, and that's the neighboring state, they had passed a law that any houses that were built after 2004 do not have to have the asbestos people come and inspect them before they need to tear down the sheetrock and tear down the insulation if any kind of repair on the house needs to happen. However, in Washington state, and this is where I happen to be, even though we're literally across the Columbia River, and like literally Vancouver is like right there, it's another state, and so we don't have that law here. So even though the house was built after 2004, guess what? That guy has to come in and take samples, and they send the samples of the drywall to the lab, and the lab then tells you yay or nay, do you have it or not, like what's going on in your house. And that's what he had come out and had done. He collected the samples from behind the refrigerator, from the drywall, which isn't that dry anymore, but that's what we call it. And he said that basically the samples are going to the lab, and on Monday, hopefully on Tuesday, we'll hear back that we don't have any asbestos in our house, and they can start tearing down this whole situation and fixing it for us. Can start tearing down your sheetrock and all your counters and everything. It's a little sad because this is the Power Puff Lippy. This is by NYX. This is actually really comfortable to wear on the lips. You know, it looks like a crazy color that I picked for me, but like I was so done wearing black and dark colors, you guys, that I needed some color in my life, honey, because this was really like, what a sad day. So, I don't know, what can you take out of this video? If you do live in a house, you have a situation, don't wait for something like that to happen. I would say, like, periodically when you do like clean up in a kitchen or whatever, maybe it's a good idea to maybe like pull out your refrigerator, or like ask someone to help you with this, of course. Pull out the refrigerator, pull out your dishwasher. Make sure your stuff is like working in good working order. If you have any kind of like a good plumber you trust, having them come in like maybe once a year and check your faucets. They will not check behind the refrigerator. Apparently that's not what they do. Plumber will check the faucets, and they will check where the washing machine and the dryer is located. They will check that area, but make sure like they check your toilets, faucets, all of that stuff. At least that way you can like eliminate situations that are slam dunk. You know, it's a good idea to always check these areas. It hurts me because they're like, oh yeah, you probably will have to get, that was the asbestos guy who said that. He's like, oh yeah, they'll probably give you the brand new kitchen. I'm like, what are you talking about? It didn't spread to the other side. And he's like, well, because your stuff is so old that they will not be able to match your cabinets and your vinyl, so they can't just like give you, here's your 2 new cabinets and we're trying to match your countertops to what you have. And I'm like, I felt terrible, like, what are you talking about so old? It's not like it's old. To me, it's brand new pretty much, because we moved in 2011. We built this house. It's all new to me. I mean, it's complete and utter BS that it's 2018 and somebody's telling me your stuff is so old, it's so hard to match. These cabinets, what are you talking about? This is my stuff. I love it. And to me, it's like still brand new. So I kind of felt sad, you know what I mean though? Like, I kind of felt sad. All I need is now I need a highlighter. I'll be right back. I'm using this lovely Becca highlighter right here. That's what she looks like. Tiny little thing. And just basically putting some of this on because, baby, after such serious emotional stress, I need to de-stress and put some highlighter on, honey. You know, also, like, it's a good idea if you are using highlighter, it's always a good idea to go the same in like the highlight the brow bone and your cheekbones and like your cupid's bow. I of course should have highlighted this before I put on this lipstick, but it's a good idea to like use the same highlighter for all these areas. That way your face looks a bit more coordinated and put together, not like all different highlighters and, you know, honey. You know, so yeah, there we go. Okay, so now that I look completely crazy, this look is complete. If you guys like, you can like use the setting spray. Normally I set my face with the Urban Decay All Nighter. Setting spray, that way the makeup can't stay on all day, and of course life would not be complete without good old Dr. Pepper. I just needed to quench this very thirsty throat. Okay, and now that we're at the end of the video, you guys, I hope that you enjoy my story. I try to stay optimistic throughout this process. And if you have any questions or if you had gone through the same situation, sound off in the comment section down below. I would appreciate it. Let's start the conversation, the juices of the conversation flowing. And before I sign off, I want to show you something. If you guys want me to do, like, I've been thinking about, like, you know how I had done my Vera Bradley collection? I can do more of the collections that I have. I also acquire shoes, and I love Doc Martens. If you want to see that collection, do sound off in the comment section down below. I will like to do a video about my Doc Martens, and I have the newest member of my collection is right here. This is the newest sandal from Doc Martens. They are super duper cute, super comfortable. The soles are super comfortable, the yellow stitching, all of that. So do let me know if you want to see more of that stuff. And I will see you all in my next video, guys. Please give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. I love you. Bye.